Give me liberty, so long as it doesn't offend Muslims.
Increasingly people are saying, we don't want that flag, we don't want the anthem, we don't want this political class, we want the whole thing consigned to the dustbin of history.
The year 2012, the beginning of the end. I am Lindsey Williams, your host for this new DVD series. 2012 will be the most eventful, the most exciting, the most startling, the most unusual year in 2,000 years. Now, if you will believe what you are seeing and hearing on this DVD, you can be successful over the new world order, you can be prosperous, and you can fulfill the dreams that you have in your life despite what's going to be taking place in these years. I have with me today Rodney Balance. Rodney, welcome. I understand that you have a new title that was just given to you recently, the Father of Financial Literacy.
Well, I'm very honored to have that title. I'm very thankful that the owner of one of the largest financial security training companies in America, he called me that, and it seems to have stuck. For the main reason, Chaplain, is that I'm committed to educating people about how money works. See, my belief is that when people understand how money works, they make it work hard for them so they don't have to work so hard for their money. For the last 20 years, as you know, I've been a financial services professional offering products and services from banking industry, investments, and insurance. And I've had a great opportunity to move toward training now. So not only do I train financial professionals, I educate the public about how all these different financial tools work. And I'm really hoping now that other than through the university where I teach at Mid-Atlantic Christian University as a professor on their adjunct faculty where I teach personal finance, and through my books and radio interviews and television through Christian Broadcasting Network, these DVDs that you've allowed me to be a part of, I'm really hoping that we'll be able to educate people even more about how certain financial tools work so they can put them to work for them.
Because of the providence of God, I had the opportunity many years ago to know things that can spare you much heartache. And that's the reason for this DVD series, because the year 2012 is going to be so significant in time that what you're going to see and hear on these DVDs, you will find it extremely helpful. My story began many years ago. I was a pastor of Grace Baptist Church in Hollywood, Florida. The Lord called me to be a missionary in Alaska after being a pastor for 12 years. And I went to Alaska as an aviation missionary. Just after arriving in the state, they announced they were going to build the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline, and that 25,000 of the roughest, toughest, cussingest, drinkingest, orneriest folks on the face of the earth were going to converge on my state to build that 800-mile, 4-foot diameter pipe, the largest ever constructed on the face of the earth, and they said it would be the biggest job ever undertaken by private enterprise in the history of the world. The first thing that came to my mind was 25,000 pipeliners. They must need some spiritual guidance. And having been a pastor for many years, I went to Alaska Pipeline Service Company and I said, don't you need a chaplain on the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline? Well, at first they laughed at me. I kept going back and back and back. I guess persistence paid off. So finally they said, okay, we'll give you the northern sector of the pipeline, up where the big oil field is, at Prudhoe Bay on the Arctic Ocean. Just go up there and see what you can do. They said, we don't even know what to give you as a job description. I did. I'm quite sure they thought I would last a week or two. Instead, 6 months later, I was still there. And they came to me one day and said, Chaplain, we never knew the value of a chaplain on a pipeline before. We never had one, and we didn't have the slightest idea of your value. You've saved us thousands of dollars of counseling fees. We'd like to offer you executive status. I said, well, I'm not quite sure what that is, but if you say so, fine. They said, well, you can stay in executive dorms. When you come to Prudhoe Bay, you're welcome to stay at Arco Base. And they said, we'd like to invite you to sit in on our board meetings in an advisory capacity in order to help the relationship between management and labor. I had not the slightest idea of what I was getting into. For 3 years' time, I lived with the elite of the world. The people you hear about in the World Bank, the IMF, top oil company officials. I sat across the dinner table from them, lived in the same dorms with them. They were not coming to my church. I was on their oil field. Therefore, they were willing to talk. It had to have been by the providence of God, because there is no way that a little insignificant, unknown missionary flying airplanes out in the bush of Alaska could have possibly ever lived with the elite of the world for 3 years' time, except by the providence of God. What I found out changed my life. And I'd like to say, if I can, as emphatically as I can state it, there positively is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world. If someone had asked me when I first went to the pipeline, Chaplain, do you believe there's a group of people on the face of the earth who tell the president what to do and dictate to Congress what bills to pass? I would have laughed at them. And I would have said, who are you, a John Bircher? If after my 3 years of living with these people, someone had said to me, Chaplain Williams, do you believe there's a group of people on the face of the earth who control the price of crude oil, who control the currencies of the world, and both Russia and China, as well as tell the President of the United States of America what to do and what bills to pass? I would have said, not only do I believe it, I sat and listened to them talk about it. Now, because of that, I can say some of the things that I'm going to say today because I found out that these people have certain mindsets. They use certain buzzwords. I've written 6 books attempting to describe these people and the experiences that I had in order to help you understand the devious pattern of the New World Order. Now, there were 2 of these individuals that became very close friends of mine. I think really, people sometimes ask me, they say, Chaplain Williams, why do these elite of the world give you such information as they've given you over the past 35 years? And my response is, I gave 3 years of my life. And I think out of appreciation, these people have allowed me to know certain things. There were 2 of them. One of them passed away about 8-9 months ago. His name was Mr. Ken Fromm. For many years, what people wondered, is Chaplain Williams really telling the truth? Did he really live with these people? Is he really in contact with the people who behind closed doors decide everything that's going to happen in the world 6 months to a year, sometimes 2 and 5 years in advance? Nothing ever happens by chance. Everything is by design plan. And they know well in advance exactly what they're going to do. And there are 2 of these individuals who have been willing to give me information over the years. Mr. Fromm said to me, he was 87 years of age at the time, he said, Chaplain, I'm too old to care. Just go ahead and tell the world everything. Well, I have done just that. And today, I would like to tell you everything as to what is going to happen in 2012. It is so very significant. And in the course of these DVDs, you'll understand why the year 2012 is like no other year for the past 2,000 years. You are going to see some of the most eventful, the most exciting, the most startling, the most unusual events. But you can live a normal life. You can be successful. And I beg of you to take to heart what you're saying and realize that the elite gave me these things, and in turn I pass them on to you. And probably there are very few people on the face of the earth who have had the privilege by God's providence of being able to listen to these people. One of the 2 individuals, who is the Mr. X of my book, The Energy and Non-Crisis, is still alive. Therefore, I will not use his name out of respect and protection for his retirement. But the other gentleman passed away. I'll tell you everything he told me. As you've heard me use his name, some people said, did he really exist? Well, now you know he does. And you can even go and find out exactly who he was. Something happened about 3 months ago. I have not done a single radio show. As most of you know, I am on talk radio on a regular basis. In fact, sometimes I will do 2 and 3 radio talk shows per day. And I thank the Lord for the opportunity of being respected to the point of some people being willing to pull me into their confidence. But something happened. I did not do a single radio talk show for 3 months. Why? I'm startled. It's difficult for me to try to explain to you, after all of these years of listening to the elite, why anything would affect me so much, but I was scared. I must admit to you, some of the things I am saying today are very risky, but I dare to tell you because I have no choice. I have a moral obligation to let you know what they have told me. The elite have a timeline. I mean, they have certain things that they intend to do by the end of 2012. Now let's go back just a little bit so that you'll understand this. Remember the day that one of the elites said to me, Chaplain Williams, the price of crude oil is going from $137 a barrel to $50 a barrel. I dared to risk my reputation and all of the books I've written by going on talk shows across America and telling the nation, this is what's going to happen. I was laughed at. I had a very well-known financial advisor from Wall Street on a particular radio talk show that said to me, now Chaplain, you really shouldn't say things like that. You know you could get the whole world in trouble if this really happened. Well, a few months later, he said on the same show, I apologize, you were right, it did happen, and it affected the entire world. You'll remember also that about, well, let's see, maybe a year and a half ago, I appeared on radio talk shows and I was literally trembling. At times I was afraid to say what I was saying because some radio talk show host had said to me, Chaplain, is there going to be a conflict or war with Iran anytime soon? And I went to my elite friends and I said, is there going to be a conflict with Iran? And he came back and he said, Chaplain, no, there's not going to be any conflict with Iran, but he said, I'll tell you what there is going to be. He said, there is going to be a major conflict that will begin in approximately 3 months in the Middle East. I dared to risk 35 years of reputation and 6 books reputation and go on talk shows across America and say within 3 months' time approximately, there is going to begin a conflict in the Middle East that will affect the entire world for years to come. You remember it very well. It was first Egypt and Mubarak and the Muslim Brotherhood. And I went back to my elitist friends and I said, what are you doing this for? Why are you creating a crisis in the world? Oh, this had been planned 5 years. They knew exactly what was going to take place. They knew nation after nation in the Middle East that they would subvert, bring under control of a Muslim Brotherhood, removing them from all freedom, and then of course it was Gaddafi. Now, there was a problem there. Gaddafi set them back about 3 months. And from there, it was one nation in the Middle East after the other. And it took place exactly as you had heard it in the archives. It's there to prove I said it 3 months before it happened. But it's not because Lindsey Williams could say it. It was because the elite made known to me a plan that they had devised 4 to 5 years prior to that behind closed doors. Folks, again, let me stress, there is no such thing as anything happening in this world that it is not planned first by the elite, and there positively is a group of people on the face of the earth who control the world. And it has happened exactly like they said it. It always will. Now, I will tell you what the elite have told me. You can, if you wish to take these things to heart, you can prosper under the New World Order. I'm going to take these one at a time by subject. You'll find each one probably more startling than the other until I come to the very end, and that, please, don't turn off your TV. I beg of you, watch all 3 DVDs. The third one is going to be the most startling of all, but don't go to the third because you need the first and the second of these DVDs before you get to the third so that you'll understand the background as to how these people do what they do. So let me take these one at a time. The first subject I'd like to cover is that which oftentimes is a very touchy subject, They say that the most touchy part of a body's anatomy is the rear pocket. So let me begin, if I may, where this starts. That's with the dollar. Now, some of you have heard me on radio shows, and I made a statement that Mr. Fromm gave to me. It was back,